Hey pups! RP here. Remember about a year or two ago when I made a top 10 list of my favorite Pokepastas? Well, I'm remaking it. Pokepastas play a big part of my life. They were what got me into creepypastas and the horror genre, and got me into classic Goosebump books. Yes, my opinions have changed since then, upon all Pokepastas everywhere. And if you have a favorite Pokepasta, be sure to leave it in the comments below, and let's get started. Pokemon Dead Channel. While its sequel is what got me into the Pokepastas in the first place, the original Pokemon Dead Channel tells the story of a young girl, or boy, I don't know, who receives 3 GameCube games for Christmas. The first one being Super Mario Sunshine, the second being Pac-Man, and the third and most obvious being Pokemon Channel, which happened to be their favorite, because of all the things they could do that they didn't get to experience IRL, until they moved schools and meet a new real friend, until they ended up moving, and they were never allowed to have any kind of contact with her when she did something unspeakable. This in turn had the author of the story become the introvert they once were, and after finding their Pokemon Channel game years later, after letting it collect dust, decided to take a nostalgic trip to memory lane, until things go wrong. Things are decrepit, decayed, and very, very gory. Worst of all, they found out that they were the ones responsible for letting their Pikachu, nicknamed Brever, a shortened version of Brother according to them, alone to rot and die in this virtual world. The reason why I put it so low on the list, while being one of my favorites, is because I had a doll cliche at the end. Other than that, that's my only nitpick for this Pokepasta. Plus I think Brever just needs a hug after all that. Then he'd probably kill me. But I die a happy woman because I hugged a sad, lonely Pikachu. Abandoned Loneliness. This Pokepasta is about the author finding an old copy of Pokemon Leaf Green, which has to be about a trainer Leaf having an Eevee named Abandoned Loneliness. Or just loneliness, I don't know. With loneliness being misspelled, and things end up going from bad to worse, just like with Pokemon Dead Channel. I'd go further into depth about the Pokepasta itself, but I highly recommend you read the entire thing yourself, and it's amazing, trust me. And yes, I only put it on here because sad, lonely Eevee! But according to the creepypasta itself, said Eevee is cursed. I think the poor little guy just needs a hug after all it's been through. Forever Mine. This Pokepasta is about the author trying to get a sky form of Shaman, due to it being their absolute favorite form of Shaman. Unfortunately, after receiving Shaman, it's stuck in its land form. Later on near the climax, when they either get another Shaman or abandon the game entirely, when they come back to their copy of Pokemon Platinum, the Shaman ends up being a fusion sky and land form, but with the body parts most likely sewn onto the Shaman, ironically named Sky. And Sky ends up using prison, so the author is stuck with Sky for the rest of their days. That sounds more like a curse than anything! It's honestly one of the scariest things to think about! Pokemon Blood Edition. This Pokepasta is about 2 friends who end up buying a copy of a Pokemon game for the Game Boy. When one of the friends ends up missing all of a sudden, and the other ends up playing said Pokemon game, only for everything to take a gory twist, where they end up facing the champion, whom apparently seemed to look like the missing friend, or maybe it was Ash. I don't remember. Be sure to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. And end up pulling out some zombie-like Pokemon, specifically the Pikachu, who looked like it just rose from the grave and looks like it's seen better days. Pure white eyes, a body of a zombie, and near the end of the story, the author's son said they want to be a trainer, like their missing friend, Steve. Ooh, eerie. Lost Silver. Another Pokepasta classic. Lost Silver is about a cursed Pokemon cartridge of the Pokemon Silver game, and throughout the game, there's basically everything that's all sunshine, rainbows, and unicorns! Come on, it's a Pokepasta. You all know how it goes. The player, Silver, ends up in one of the temples with the Unknown Ruins music playing in the background, and a battle ensues with a nearly limbless shiny Celebi versus a very depressed looking Pikachu. And Celebi uses the Perish song, and to put it bluntly, everyone died. The end. Pokemon Perfect. A story about a young girl who ends up playing on her older brother's Pokemon Silver game and having 2 Woopers, one being a shiny pink male, and another being a blue female, and both named Shelly. And the 2 end up fusing together, but it's expected in a gory fashion. Of course they end up murdering other Pokemon, because, as I say, there can be only one! The story itself is kind of bland at best, but it's one of the classics in my book, while having the same cliches as some of the others. It's still a good read either way. I Won't Leave You. A fan parody to Abandoned Loneliness, this story is about loneliness being found by a male Sylveon named Trey, or was it Tyrone? I don't remember. And the two end up becoming close friends, until everything goes dark. When does it not in Pokepastas? Darkness comes after loneliness, and the Sylveon has to bring him to the grave before the darkness consumes everything. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Death. A story about a girl who ends up getting a copy of Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Explorers of Sky, ends up getting Squirtle several times, but then ends up getting Vulpix after so many Squirtles, and things just go from 0 to 100 real fast. Basically, the game gets into E to E10 plus to M-rated territory. Thinking Pokemon was leveling up with its ratings, a white and gray Shinx ends up saving the Vulpix, Mayra, and then they meet up with a very brutal looking Squirtle. I won't spoil the ending for you guys, but trust me, you'll enjoy it as much as I did back in the day. Or maybe you'll hate it. Either way, it's a fun read. Disabled. When the player ends up trading another Pokemon for a Wigglytuff, said Wigglytuff is odd and strange from the start. Its name is Disabled, ironic, and its own sing is Disabled. This is when things end up going for the worst. Disabled tries to steal the player's own voice, and the Pokemon itself ends up showing its true form. Aside from the cliche black eyes, with red dots and whatnot, it's still one of the classics. Strangled Red. A bit cliche, but hear me out. Probably the one that started the whole Pokepasta craze. Aside from Lavender Town, of course. Strangled Red is about the author finding a copy of Pokemon Red, and the neck of a Charizard on the cover is scratched up a bit, but was supposed to because of being in the trash. That aside, the entire game ends up playing out differently, with the player Red now being named Steve, and the rival being his brother, and also having a Charmander named Mickey. Later in the game, the brother borrows Mickey, now Charizard, and things, of course, go dark. Everyone expresses their pity and sympathy for Steve after the loss of his beloved Mickey, and he ends up turning into what looks like to be a demon, and things only get worse from there. Again, I won't spoil it, but I highly recommend you read it. That being said, hope you guys enjoyed that video. If there's a Pokepasta you expected to see on this list, or have a favorite Pokemon creepypasta of yours, be sure to leave it in the comments below, and cue the outro. RP out. Peace!